All right, today I'm going to talk briefly about fat loss plateaus because this is something that a lot of my clients struggle with before working with me. And honestly, even after I start working with my clients, it's something that's going to happen at some point. So, if your goal is to get very, very lean, first of all, if you're working with personal trainers, don't let them lie to you and tell you that the scale doesn't matter. If you know that you are above your lean weight, and you know that you need to lose body fat, the scale absolutely matters. Yes, you can do things like take photos to make sure that your body composition is improving along with fat loss. But the scale definitely matters if you're looking to lose body fat. So, in terms of figuring out if you're actually at a fat loss plateau, the first most important thing you need to know how to do is track your weight loss correctly. And I'm really surprised at how many people don't do this the right way. Something I see a lot is people stepping on the scale once a week and trying to figure out if you're losing weight that way. The other mistake I see is people thinking that if the scale isn't dropping, maybe you do weigh in every day and you get to the point where you think if the scale isn't dropping every single day that your diet has stopped working or you're not working out hard enough or something like that. And that's not true either. The truth is we want to look at the past 14 days of data and look at your moving average. So what are your average weigh-ins and is that trend dipping lower or is it flat or are you gaining weight, right? I built software for my clients in the form of an app that makes it really easy for them to tell what their rate of loss is per week. And so for me, if I see rate of loss slow down below 1 pound per week, I'm going to do something to speed that back up again. So again, first big thing you need to know is, are you even tracking your weight loss correctly? Next thing is, if you are truly at a fat loss plateau and the scale is not moving, you need to make sure you know what to assess next. And like I tell you guys all the time, your body does not want to get lean. So you have to look at fat loss and getting really lean as a process that you've got to be able to sustain for long enough to hit your goals. So for example, if you do the wrong adjustment too soon, you're not going to make it to the end of your fat loss goals because you adjusted the wrong thing. So, what I typically look at next, if someone is at a plateau and not dropping as fast as I would like to see them drop, I will look at their food next. This is a big one. If you guys aren't tracking your food, that would be like not tracking your numbers for a company or like, I don't know, going broke and not even looking at your finances. Like, if you want to lose fat, in an easy way and really understand what's going on and not hit plateaus, you need to know where you're at with your food because food controls fat loss. Your training is going to determine what your muscle and what your shape looks like underneath the fat loss. But if you want to get lean enough to see your muscles, food is king. So things that I see cause a plateau that are related to food tracking is sometimes people will stop tracking accurately and they maybe thought they were in a deficit, but once we have a week of good tracking again, they see that they were just eating 300 calories too much every day. And so they weren't really in a deficit. And once they bring their calories back into a deficit, the scale starts moving again. And sometimes we don't need to adjust anything. Other times, you guys need to know that when it comes to calories and how you're spending your calories, like what your macro setup looks like, 2,000 calories that are unoptimized calories, for example, might not create fat loss. Meanwhile, if we optimize 2,000 calories and we're very strategic with macros, there are certain foods that burn themselves off through digestion. And so that 2,000 calorie allowance, if optimized correctly and spent on the right macros, that can become deficit calories and create fat loss. Again, if you know how to optimize your macros in the right way. Most of the time, I can fix a fat loss plateau without even touching activity, but occasionally, especially if you've been in a deficit for a long time, if I get to the point to where one of my clients hits a fat loss plateau and I don't want to change anything with food and they really are tracking accurately, at that point I might look at activity and see if their activity has dropped a lot and then pick the least stressful way of adding activity back in to see if that can get the scale to move again. So for example, I might not add more workouts, but I might figure out whatever their average step count is and just bump that up slightly to see if that gets the scale to drop. Another thing that I do that's really strategic with my clients is that we never start out with cardio. Like I always save cardio for later and I use it to break plateaus if needed. Lastly, if it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with activity or food tracking, sometimes I will look for, you know, things that are the exception that could be causing stress. You have a hormone in your body called cortisol that helps us manage stress. And we actually need cortisol to be present so that our bodies can deal with stress. But sometimes if you've had something present in your routine that isn't normally there, like if you've traveled more frequently, over the past few weeks, or if you're really sleep deprived, like you're getting way less sleep than you normally do, or even if you are just like sick, being sick can raise your body's stress levels. Those can be things that raise cortisol, and cortisol is a hormone that can make you retain water. So that can be sometimes a temporary thing that makes it look like you're at a plateau when really it's just temporary increased stress. So again, as you can tell, this is not a one size fits all answer. It's really important that you guys are educated on this stuff so that you know how to deal with things like plateaus to where you can actually reach your goals. Um, anyway, like I say, it's not rocket science, but it is science. So I'm going to be doing a live masterclass this Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And if you're someone who's at a fat loss plateau and your desire is to get very lean, like you're not okay with just looking good for your age, I'm going to be teaching on how to break fat loss plateaus specifically by using metabolic leverage. That thing I said about, optimizing calories, like for example, you could be eating 2,000 calories and not losing any weight or even gaining weight, or you could be eating 2,000 optimized calories and dropping weight like crazy. So not all fat loss is created equal. And again, if you want to lose the weight and keep it off long term and also feel, energized and good while you're lean, then this is something, this would be a masterclass worth attending. So if you want an invite to that, just send me the word masterclass